Hello and welcome to the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate. Jim Riley here with Rod Kuntz. Hello, Rod.
Jim Riley, it's so nice to see you. Listeners out there, it's nice to have your ears.
Hey, I just grinded out 3 days of driving this week. If you're following my Instagram stories, Rod, I know you know this, but I left on. Well, let me step back a minute, okay? And this is going to be a fair warning to parents out there. All right. And I'm going to be honest and transparent in this story, is that about a week ago, we're recording on Thursday. Yeah, about a week ago, I over poured myself at home, festive, decorating the house and stuff, Christmas cooking. When I'm cooking, I like to pour myself a little cocktail, and I over poured myself. I was just having my own little good time making food. And my wife and kids come home and, they're doing their thing. And my wife says, "Oh, this friend of a friend is giving away these healer dogs. Want to see them?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And they're just so cute, Rod. And the girls are like, "We should get one. We should get one." And I said, "Well, I did tell you guys, if we ever got another dog, it would only be a healer or a lap dog. Nothing in between. That was it. Because our healer is the best dog." And I know that, kids like house dogs, little lap dogs. So anyways, they're like, "Well, Dad, we should get this." Well, before the night was over, again, I overpoured myself. I was committed to getting in the truck, driving to Southern California to pick up this free dog. And by the way, going surfing and shopping and eating all these great places with my 10-year-old.
How much did that dog cost you?
Yeah, the free dog. We were going to go crazy. So the next morning I wake up and we're around the breakfast table. We homeschool, so it's, leisure time at home. I said, "Guys, I had the craziest dream last night. I dreamt that we drove to California and bought this dog and, went surfing and fishing and all this crazy stuff." And the girl's like, "Daddy, you weren't dreaming that. You told us that."
They called you out. Oh my. Jim.
Oh yeah. And my wife's shaking her head. She's like, Yep, you definitely told them that." So anyways, we have a new dog.
And a nice memory lane trip down to Southern California.
Well, it was an awesome trip with my daughter. And if you're a father out there or a mother, doesn't matter. But there is nothing that will take the place of, just time with your kids, exploring, adventuring. The whole time my daughter's like, "You're crazy, Dad. We're so crazy. Look what we're doing. This is so crazy." We went surfing. My daughter got up. She stood up on the surfboard 3 times. She's like, "I just wanted to stand up. This is the best part of my day." We hadn't even gotten the dog yet, She's like, "This is the best thing ever." Don't miss those moments. And if, gosh, make the time to make those moments happen for yourself and your kids. And you know what, Rod, I'll take it a step further because I know you're really good at this, is make time for your spouse too. You guys have date night every week, right?
Yes, every Friday.
Yeah, I love that.
Every Friday.
We're not as disciplined as that, but I will tell you that I'm going to make a more of an effort to do that as well. Samantha's probably listening to the show. Better start putting it on the calendar. But don't miss the opportunities to have these special moments with your kids, your family, your spouse. It's not that hard. And it doesn't, despite fuel prices, it doesn't cost that much money,
Right.
We did some couch surfing. You know what that is, couch surfing?
I do.
Yeah, we did some couch surfing, so we didn't have to pay for rooms. We went and just had fun, fast food, like Wahoo's fish tacos. If you're in Montana, you don't know that, but if you're in Southern California, Wahoo's is the jam. That one of my first race team sponsors. So there's all kinds of fun stuff that you can do for little money or no money. Just make the time. So that's all I'll say about that. I know that was a little tangent, but I want to make the point, man. Get out there and spend time with your family. Make memories.
Absolutely. And I'll say this, it's like you said, that whether it's couch surfing or, date night doesn't mean we have to go out and do something or, hit a movie or a concert or, it doesn't mean that. It just means that time is set aside. It's set apart and it's for us. And we'll stay home and play games together, learn new things together. We'll build puzzles together. It's carved out is what it is. It's sacred time. It's set aside and it's separate. It doesn't have to be anything super duper. You're not wowing somebody. You're just spending quality time with them.
You just gave me the best idea. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to talk about it next week because I'm going to do it.
Okay.
I'll tell you about it next week. So, hey, thanks for this. Anyways, had a good trip. I'm back. Lots of time in the car. Learned a lot about myself. Of course, I have a topic, Rod, and we do this all the time. If you listen to the show, I pop a topic in Rod last minute. This is what we're going to talk about. We oftentimes will spend a couple minutes before the show talking, catching up, because we like to do that. And Rod, I had a topic, which was give 100%. And I want to talk about giving 100%, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to talk about that now.
Okay.
Well, this is more important, more critical. And I think people need to hear this right now, which is usually the case. And that is what we were talking about before I turned on the record button. And that's getting our youth, our young adults, into the workforce at the appropriate age. And let's talk about what we think the appropriate age is and what that work looks like. But I'll just say this, I've recorded over 500 podcasts with another guest. So every show I'm interviewing somebody. I think maybe 2 out of all of them I did a solo show. But every entrepreneur that I've interviewed, and this includes you as well, Rod, worked at a very young age. And back in our day, paper route, mowing lawns, washing cars, pulling weeds. Gosh, I remember pulling weeds as a kid. That was the worst job ever, pulling weeds for people. There's a number of things that people can do to earn money legal working age of 15 and a half or 14 or 13 if you're in Montana working on a ranch. There's a lot of activities that you can do to earn money that begin to teach you about responsibility, the value of work. And I think this is the most underestimated value of work. I'm not sure if that's the right term. Maybe correct me, Rod, but the value of putting in a hard day's work. Let me ask you, Rod, and maybe you just have an example. When have you worked your tail off with your hands doing something hard all day, sweating, getting dirty, grimy, 8, 9, 10, 12 hours in the hot sun, whatever it looked like, and you got done and you sat down and you go, wow, what a great day of work. I mean, people underestimate the value of that.
I used to I still look forward to it. You know that. And
Yeah.
People who have been listening to this podcast know that I crave hard work and not just a productive day of work, because, I was in white collar for quite some time, and it's not the same kind of work. It's emotionally taxing, mentally taxing, but there's something about the physical being thrown into that where your whole body, mind, spirit, everything is engaged. And there's so much value in that. And if you don't have that component, I think the physical component to that is a key component to a good, strong work ethic. People, whether it's pulling weeds, like you said, or mowing a lawn, or, helping somebody do something hard, moving projects. I know, and this was almost abusive, but Michael Jackson, whether you're a Michael Jackson fan or not, the Jackson 5, before it was just Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson, their father used to have a stack of cinder blocks at their house. Oh. And when they got home from school, they had to move the cinder blocks from like one side of the driveway or one part of the yard to the other. They had to stack in a big stack. So it was hard physical work. And they did that every single day. Now, I wouldn't do that because I only approve of work with a purpose.
Yeah.
I want work with a purpose, not just work for work's sake, or, like busy homework for busyness sake or something like that. I'm not into that. But there's something that is positive about being fully engaged on the physical level. Mm-hmm. And it's never too early to get your children. If they can help, they get to help. It's just that simple. Whether it's carrying groceries into the house, have them help. If it's putting groceries away, have them help. Taking the garbage out, go with them, and pick up sticks on the way. It's not hard to find things to do that are productive and get you engaged physically.
So let's dial this in a little bit to the point that I want to make. And that is, if you're a parent, I believe that you have the responsibility to teach your children the value of work and work ethic and learning what that looks like. So when they get into the real world, which is disappearing every day, it seems like we're in a virtual world now. When they get into the real world, that they have the survival skills, the instinct skills, the ability to earn a living and take care of themselves. God forbid if something should happen to the parent at an earlier time and the child is left to figure it out, right? So I think that as parents, you have the responsibility to teach your kids the value of work. And so what I just briefly touched on was, the value of putting in a hard day's work, which I think is completely underestimated because there's so much to that. But let's be very specific. There's so many jobs out there that young adults can do, and let's just call it legal working age, if you will. In other words, pulling weeds, mowing lawns, some of the things that Rod just talked about, newspapers, things that you can do at a younger age to start to learn and develop some skills in the workforce. But by the time your child is of working age, and by the way, I'm a parent of two that have lots of activities. I'm like you, I'm driving these kids everywhere, for all these various things with their friends or ballet or horse lessons. You still have to integrate into that time to work if you can, even if it's only 1 day a week or 2 short work, days, 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever that looks like, because the skills that they will learn at a young age and develop them early are so valuable as they get older. And you will find their ability to interact with other people will grow exponentially. And one job that I really like to refer parents to is food service. Parents, what should I have my kid do for work? Where should they apply? I don't care what restaurant it is, but I encourage young adults to get into the restaurant business, even if it's only for 6 months. I wouldn't say less than 6 months, but working the cash register, interacting with customers, dealing with customer complaints, dealing with lots of people for short periods of time, and developing those skills and all the things that's required in a restaurant. So whether that's McDonald's, In-N-Out, Taco Bell, Wendy's, the list is long, or maybe it's Applebee's, something like that, get your kid into restaurant business, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on first jobs, Rod?
I was actually thinking about that. It's interesting that this is the topic for today, because I was thinking just yesterday that the only experience I had, a brief experience in food service, but not restaurant. It was at the university. So that's, mass serving. And the whole time I was in the military, I never had to pull KP or, do any duty like that. I don't know how, well, I worked hard, and so I always avoided that kind of stuff. Yeah. I was busy doing other things. But I do regret that I do not have that experience, because I'm a great critic of service, food service, when I go out, and I know the back end, the doing pots and pans and dishes, but the skills you learn that are so important in that food service, not just people skills, but you learn attention to detail, and you learn that you have to listen and listen carefully. Yep. Orders getting taken right, and being able to count money back. That shouldn't even be called a skill. It should just be called a common sense. Yeah. This is basic math. You should know how to count change back to somebody, and read an order back, and just so many different things, and to do things with a smile on your face, and to ask for the extra. Do you be attentive to their needs? Do you need more water? Do you need your beverage? I can't tell you how many times, and we don't go out to eat often. And I even told you that we went to Taco Bell for our first time ever, just recently, within the last month.
It's wild.
It is. But, this is something I will tell you. It was great food. The service was great. They moved people through. But this is something they missed. We didn't get napkins. So, it's that kind of thing. Are you doing your job? Or even if you don't give napkins out, at least ask, do you need do you need napkins?
Yeah. Or there's where they are.
Yeah. But, this isn't a drive-through. So, but again, those are skills that are life skills, and they're necessary life skills. And because I haven't done food service, I can't really relate to waiters and waitresses, but I've been in other service industries. So I have the empathy from that point, dealing with angry customers and defusing situations, or knowing where to punt and get the manager involved and get it done early and often.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they get paid for. You don't get paid to get the abuse. So those are things that are critical life skills that young people need to know. And the restaurant business, the service industries, all of them are a great place to learn those skills.
Well, and I want to go a little bit deeper because you mentioned it. There's so many different aspects to food service that you don't get elsewhere. The point of being in food service, in my opinion, is that you get to interact with a lot of people. And you can argue, well, my kid's got a job at Hobby Lobby, which I love, by the way. Great faith-based company. Closed on Sundays though, so don't go on Sundays. You can work at Hobby Lobby or Home Depot or Lowe's or even the grocery store, but really all you're doing is ringing people up. Your point that you made is in the food service industry, you're taking their order. Right. You're listening to what they want, typing that order in. And then if you're good at your job, you're making recommendations on what might go with that. Hey, do you want some fries to go with that burger, right? Or a drink to go with your burger and fries? You're making recommendations, right? Which is making the company more money. And then you're evaluating and helping them. Are you going to eat here or to go, right? And then you've got the other side of that is fulfilling that order, and handing it out and smiling and asking if they want a napkin, and as well as dealing with customer complaints that you don't often have to deal with at a Hobby Lobby or Lowe's or, et cetera, because they've got the return department. That's the only complaint you're going to get really is the return department. So in food service, you're going to get, hey, you screwed up my order, man. I told you no tomatoes. So, and nobody wants to deal with that, but yet that is going to develop your skills on how to defuse a situation, how to treat the customer appropriately. In most fast food restaurants, customer's always right. So you're learning patience and all these things. And if you're a parent, do your kids a favor and encourage them to go work in the food service industry for 6 months or more at a young age. And what you will find, this happened to me, by the way. I started working in food service at 13 for my grandfather. And it was incredible for me because I was an introvert. I know you couldn't tell that by this show, but I was an introvert. I was afraid to talk to people. And my grandfather realized that. He put me on the register. He made me take orders at 13 years old. So not only did I have to interact with people and customer service and problems, I had to learn how to count money, and then occasionally I was in the kitchen, right? But he recognized that I was an introvert. By the time I was done with my first summer working for my grandfather, I was, couldn't stop me now. I wasn't afraid to talk to people. I was a conversationalist now. I realized that people don't bite. There was so much value in that. So that's my first point about, our responsibility as parents to the youth, to our kids, is to encourage them to get a job at a young age. And what that looks like, in my opinion, food service. We are doing, and I want you to touch on this, Rod, because you were very passionate about it and you can be vague, but we're doing our kids a disservice by allowing them to skate through life beyond the age of 18 without having a job, because those are critical skill learning ages in between 15 and 18. And what a shame that kids aren't working just to learn a skill before the age of 18.
Well, I couldn't agree more, number one. And number two, let's talk about jobs, the value of a job. There was more value in me as a youngster having a job because we didn't get an allowance. In our family. When I went to school, there were a whole lot of kids that got an allowance. They got a weekly allowance, and they were hitting the soda machines and the candy machines and bringing stuff to school and that kind of stuff. That didn't happen in our house. There was no free money being handed out by my mom and dad. They had 6 kids, and all of my siblings had jobs except my last brother until he was an adult. But we all had jobs. We had to, or we didn't get what we wanted, right? If you wanted something, there had to be a sacrifice to get that something. You had to, a fair exchange. And so that taught you savings as well. So there's so much value in, I know that you've talked too about what you learn in the restaurant business. And how you can save money, when you turn the burners on and the equipment on, and how to fine tune your menu items and your ordering items. There are so many critical purchasing skills that go into it. No matter what business you're in, the restaurant business is a perfect proving ground for looking at the minutia that gets away from people and costs businesses thousands and even millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I ran this scenario by one of the guys that I work with, a younger man. He's 21 years old. And he was talking about, the company and the money and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, look, I said, every time someone's standing around, and I was, again, complaining about a new person who was sitting down on the job while we were working. And I said, you need to look at this from the corporate point of view. If you have, 100 employees here and they're being paid, right, at this wage, and all of them waste 5 minutes every hour instead of working, they're literally, and this is a fast moving production line, right? If they're wasting 5 minutes, now multiply that 5 minutes times 100 people. Now multiply that times, 300 days a year. Okay. Now let's calculate the dollar aspect. How much did it cost this facility alone to have these people sitting around just today? And there are times when, trucks come in and they're late and there's downtime. If you're not cleaning, right? If you're not picking up, if you're not finding something to do, you are not only wasting time, you are costing the company millions. And when you extrapolate that out to we're one hub and there's 100,000 employees worldwide. And if all of those employees are wasting 15 minutes a day and you're still paying them for that, I'm telling you, these lessons are valuable, especially in the restaurant business. And I was thinking about this. Aaron Flint this morning on his talk radio show, right? Mm-hmm. He got started in the restaurant. He was in the steakhouses, more high end. And in Washington, D.C., he was working in high end stuff. I believe Dan Bongino was in the restaurant business. And I know Sean Hannity was. So you look at some of these celebrities that work, and they work hard, and they've worked hard their whole lives. Many of them had their starts in food service. And there's this stigma about, well, I'm not going to go flip burgers, or, what am I going to do? Go flip burgers? Yeah, go flip burgers. Go build tacos. Go wash dishes at a regular restaurant. There's no stigma attached to hard work. It's valuable, and everybody's out there eating, right? Whether it's fast food or slow food, right? They are out there eating, and there's always going to be a market for that. Why not jump in?
Well, and by the way, flip that around. There's a negative stigma. Flip it around to, I'm going to go learn a skill, and that is how to interact with people in a mass volume scenario as quickly as possible. So by the time I get to what my career choice might be, I have a new skill, and that's customer service, or how to interact with people. Let me explain something. And so if you're a parent out there and you're like, well, my kid doesn't have to work, I want them to focus on school and do well in school, and then they have their out of school activities. You're doing them a disservice by not promoting them to go to work at least a couple hours a week. Here's why. So when I was at In-N-Out Burger, I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell a little different detail of it. I was interviewing for the new In-N-Out Burger on the Irvine campus, which is the college there, Irvine College, right? Some of the smartest kids in the country go to that school, and they've got a great medical program. Young man comes to me. I'm interviewing because we had like 1,000 applicants, and there were several other managers there. Young kid comes to me. He's on his second MBA, and he's probably 20, 21. Second MBA, doesn't have to work because everything's paid for by his parents. But he said, hey, I want to make a few extra bucks so I can, go buy things that I want that my parents, aren't going to buy me. Whatever that was. I don't know, Game Boy or something, fast food. I don't know. Anyways, I'm interviewing him. He had zero personal skills, zero experience in real life, could not answer real life scenario questions. And here he is on a second MBA, straight A's, honor roll, but has basically zero common sense. Now imagine, and so he's not going to get what he wants. And what he wants is to make a few extra dollars to buy some of the things that, his own little luxuries that his parents don't pay for. The result is he doesn't get the job. If his parents would have encouraged him to work at a younger age, whatever that would have been for him, and gain some basic skills outside of his MBA programs, he would have got the job. Who wouldn't want somebody that's willing to study and succeed at that level if they have any skills? But he had zero. And so to take that a step further, now let's imagine that this kid goes into a medical practice, right? Why wouldn't he? He's got the grades for it. And I'm sure when you're a hospital or, a medical group looking at his resume, gosh, this kid's brilliant. He should be one of our doctors. What kind of bedside manners does that doctor have? Probably zero. He hasn't interacted with anybody his whole life except for textbooks. And he might be a great doctor, but when as a consumer or a customer, I'd like some bedside manners too when I go into the doctor's office. I'm going to feel better about the service that I got, right? So, these things compound over time with only a little bit of effort to encourage kids to get to work at an earlier age.
I couldn't agree more. And you mentioned this kid's working on a second MBA program, so Master of Business Association. So in medical field, whether he's in medical itself or if he's in the administrative end of it, these are the people who are running now today, major corporations. And, you hear it all the time. Oh, corporate says this, and they don't have a clue what it does to us here on the ground, right? You hear that all the time. Well, why does that happen? It's because big corporations are hiring based on an outdated academic model that's producing substandard people, right, to run their programs, because they're basing it off of grades, they're basing it off of degrees, and they're not basing it off of the real world skills that people need to actually succeed. And then you have problems. You have problems with shareholders and stakeholders and, union people, because there's a disconnect. Well, why is that disconnect there? You want to erase a disconnect in this country between corporate and the groundswell, the ground people who do the work? Start doing the work first. And if you don't know, how many times we see the show Undercover Boss and they go in for 24 hours, 24 hours to go learn what their people actually do. You don't learn it in 24 hours. I'm telling you, go spend 2 weeks doing what the people do, and then if you can cut it, go back upstairs and fix the problems. But yeah, it's just, it amazes me how we've gotten to this point. And part of it is, and I'm doing my college is not the be all end all speech here. Part of it is you're not being taught what you need in college. You just are not. And it's being taught the same way today. I can say that honestly and with some substance, because I know it's being taught the same way as it has been when I was going to college, and it has been for the last 100 years. The grading's different. They might be delivering the content differently. Instead of chalkboards, they went to whiteboards, and now they're using computer animated screens and that sort of thing. And they're using, instead of grade books where you write it in, they're using software. But the system itself, the evaluation of it has not changed in 100 years.
Yeah.
And why are we not catching up? Because people are not hearing the message you and I are saying today. We need to fix what's broken, and this is what's broken. Get to work.
Big time. So look, we could probably deliberate on this for a long time and give another dozen scenarios. But if you're listening and you have kids, find a place and an opportunity for them to go to work. And I'm not asking you to tell them to put in 40 hours or 30 or 20, but how about 4 to 6 hours a week in customer service? I'd prefer the restaurant industry. Gives them a well-rounded perspective of what's out there and give them the skills necessary to succeed in whatever they do. Like Rod, I'm not a huge proponent for the college education either, unless that's exactly required for your field that you're interested in. There's trade schools out there, there's entrepreneurism, there's all kinds of alternatives, but give your kids a fighting chance to get into the game by serving others for a little bit of time at a young age. Make the time, make it a priority, make it important to you and your family, and get them out there. And that way, they're not showing up to a job at 18 or 20 and the boss is going, well, it's his first time ever on a job in his whole life. Give him a break.
Yeah. Go easy on him.
No breaks here, man. No breaks. And you know what? He might fail and he might get fired. But hopefully he'll pick himself up and go find another job and try again until he gets it right. So that's all I got to say about that for today, Rod. I mean, like I said, we could record a lot longer. Any closing thoughts?
It's never too late to start. If you've got teenagers, if they're getting ready to graduate high school and they've not had a job yet, they don't have to wait till spring or summer. Go find something. And I'll tell you what, I know that the rest of the country is just like it is here in our valley. There are help wanted signs all over. Go get a job. And people need workers enough that you could probably write your own schedule. So like, I can only work 1 day a week, but I'll be happy to do it. Mm-hmm. Do what you can do. So get out there and get it done.
I love
Parents, help your children do this. Encourage them.
Okay, that's the show. If you like it, share it. If you want to learn more, if you want to get into our community, the Young Entrepreneur Syndicate, go to the website, youngentrepreneurs.com. Our membership is $99 a month. We do 4 calls a month via Zoom, and we have tons of resources on our website to help you succeed as an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur. Give you those skills. We also do some private coaching within that program. If you need it, we're here for you. You've got myself, Rod, and then our third partner, Rachel, who's a marketing expert. I mean, seriously, Rod, it'd be worth the $100 just to get Rachel's advice on marketing per month. I mean,
absolutely.
Hands down. If you're listening and you're not doing that, you're crazy, because Rachel's a genius. I've got her working for a client of mine right now. She is crushing it for me, making me look like a hero. I'd pay $100 a month to have access to her. So anyways, Rod, good to see you. Thanks for
good to see you.
Keeping the hot topic going with some relevant information and insights.
Hey, let's throw this out to the listeners too. If you are in a corporation, running a large corporation, or know of someone who is or does, and you need a speaker to come in and educate and motivate your people, Jim and I are both available to do keynotes, and we can share our knowledge on any topic you would like.
Hey, by the way, you're a certified speaker with a great group. What, right?
John Maxwell.
That's right.
John Maxwell.
Yep. I was looking for the word.
Not that you have to have the certification to do that, but yes.
All right. Good addition. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, Young Entrepreneur Syndicate.